Here's some sample test questions for you about seller financing using a contract for deed, otherwise known as a land contract. In this video, I've got 5 questions for you from one seller financing scenario. Very typical exam questions you're likely to see. I'd encourage you to pause the video once you see the scenario and the questions. Give yourself some time to answer. And then following that, I will have the answers, explanations, and some test tips for you on seller financing. As always, I encourage you to take some notes during this. And before we get to the question, I appreciate all of you who have left me comments and liked my videos. I appreciate that and look forward to having more of these for you in the future. Well, here we go with the seller financing scenario. Tom is selling his house to Bob for $200,000 using a contract for deed, clearly a form of seller financing. At the closing, Tom will transfer his right of possession to Bob for the term of the contract. But what else is true after the closing? Well, here's your 5 questions. Who has legal title to the property? Which party is the vendor, the vendee? What type of title does Bob have? What's Tom's remedy if Bob defaults on the terms of the contract? And what's finally going to happen when Bob pays off the contract in full? Now I'd encourage you to pause the tape here for a couple minutes if you want. Think about those questions. When you're ready with your answers, proceed. Okay, question 1. Tom retains legal title during the term of the contract for deed, also known in some states as a land contract. Remember, the vendor, the seller, Tom, retains legal title during the term of the contract. Answer to question number 2, identifying the 2 parties, the vendor and the vendee. Tom, the seller, is the vendor. Bob is the vendee. Remember, the ORs are the givers. Tom gives the contract for deed to Bob. Bob receives the contract for deed. So Bob is the vendee. Just so important you know your Ors and Es throughout all of your required material. Answer to question 3 is Bob, the vendee, has equitable title. Very important you make note of that for your test. Equitable title. Best way I can describe equitable title to you is think about it as contractual title. Remember, Tom, the seller, retains legal title, but Bob has equitable title. I want you to think of it as contractual title. Bob has a contract to get the legal title. And if Bob fulfills that contract, then Tom is legally bound to transfer legal title to Bob. So Bob has what's called equitable title. But if you can think of it as contractual title, that'll help you recall it for your exam. Along with equitable title, Bob actually gets possession and use of the property during the terms of the contract. Question number 4, very important vocabulary word for your exam. What's Tom's remedy if Bob defaults? Termination is the vendor's remedy if the vendee defaults on the terms of the contract. Remember, for the test, it is not foreclosure. That's on a mortgage. Contract for deeds are terminated. And here's your last question. What happens when Bob pays off the contract for deed in full? Well, a major event is that's when Tom will transfer legal title to Bob. That's the only time on a contract for deed when Bob will get legal title to the property. Here's some other test tips for you regarding contract for deeds. If you want to make some quick notes, I'd encourage you to do that. Contract for deed is clearly a bilateral contract. 2 parties making promises to each other, so it's a bilateral contract. When Tom transfers full legal title to Bob, Tom transfers his complete bundle of rights. Remember, owners have rights, and the complete bundle of rights goes to Bob. There's also an example here of voluntary alienation. Voluntary alienation. Remember, Tom is transferring title to Bob voluntarily, and alienation is any transfer of title. Anytime a title changes hands, you have a different owner. That's alienation of the property. Tom did it voluntarily, so that's voluntary alienation example. Remember that, okay? Another question on the test you might see is, who sets the terms on a contract for deed? Who decides the interest rate, the amount of payments? Who's going to pay the taxes? Who's going to maintain the property? Everything in a contract for deed is negotiated between the two parties. So it's all set by negotiation would be the correct answer. So those are some insights and some testing tips about contract for deeds. I hope you find it helpful. Well, I hope you found that video helpful. And for more information about contract for deeds and other forms of financing, see my financing video in my exam prep playlist. Along with the other 9 videos down below, you'll see I cover all 10 of the National Exam Prep topics. I'm here to help you pass your exams. I know that's your goal. My goal is to help you do that. As always, if you like my videos, please hit the icon below. Share, subscribe, and comment. I appreciate any comments you have for me. I look forward to my next video with you. Good luck on your exams and in your career.